Nearpod.com. Go to that on your laptop or your phone or your tablet, and there should be an option for joining lesson, and then this is the code you need to put in to join that lesson. Yep. Can you customize the code? It's really randomized. I think it works a lot better like this. Hello. So, oops. I'm going to put this on. I'm assuming our technician's going to come. Yeah. There, listen. I'm going to do magic tricks in a second. Okay, I'm going to start the talk in 1 minute, but if anyone else has come in after I've explained this, Nearpod.com is a way we can do interactive presentations. So I'm going to be beaming this presentation to everyone's devices if they want, and there's opportunities to ask questions and to answer a few polls. Go to Nearpod.com on your phone, tablet, or laptop. Click the Join Lesson button, and then type this code in here. So if anyone's watching on YouTube, you can do this as well. You need to go to Nearpod.com and type in ANCEK for the Join Lesson. All right. And I've just now launched a poll for you. This is a really, really simple little question I wanted to ask at the very beginning. Have you used VR or AI in teaching before? It'd be really useful for me to know how many in the room have used it before in teaching particularly. Yes? Yeah. Hello. Hello. Do you have a question? Sorry.
Oh, no, I thought you said who's used it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So quick, sorry, I thought you put your hand up because you didn't have it. Yeah. So answering on the screen. Yeah, on the screen, we've got an interactive question coming up on the presentation. Thank you very much. Yeah. Huh? I've got 16. 16? 16. 16, that's brilliant. Yeah. That's great. Right. Before I start, I don't know if I need to wait for my convener to arrive. Anyone got any ideas? Anyone here is part of Swansea University? No?
Probably should.
Should, yeah. I'll just wait a couple more minutes then. So if anyone hasn't had an opportunity to get...
Who it is, I can see if I can find them.
If you're part of the university and you don't mind, that would be great, yeah. Because I think they're controlling the live stream as well, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah. There's normally a convener here to control the live stream. Do you know if there's anyone going to come in for this session? Yeah, exactly.
Looking for the reflective app on the laptop? No? Other rooms? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know who it is.
Yeah, thank you very much, yeah. All right. Okay. Right. In the meantime, I'm just gonna share that for the moment. So, the few that's not answered yet, but that's okay if you didn't want to share. That's pretty 50-50. I wasn't certain when I arrived to today whether everyone would have used it before or everyone hasn't. This is pretty tricky for me because quite a lot of what I'm going to cover is going to be some of the technical stuff. So you haven't done it before. We're going to start from the basics. And for people who have used it before, hopefully you get some new ideas about different ways you could possibly use VR in the teaching. That's great. Well, so I'll just move to the first slide for the moment. Wait one moment. We're waiting for the convener. We haven't actually got someone from the committee. We weren't certain whether we should start without them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because normally there's someone to man the live stream.
Oh, right, your chair.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. They've gone to try and find it.
Yeah.
Somebody just came into the coffee saying, where's the chair?
Where's the chair? We've got a desk and a laptop. We haven't got a chair.
So we might. Is it possibly Mark Holmes?
I really don't know, no, just following convention. Would you like me to start? I don't mean next level of responsibility. Yeah, should we get going then? I know everyone needs to travel back at some point this evening, so let's not waste too much time. So thank you very much for coming today and for putting up my little setup there with the interactive presentation. My name is James, and my colleague here, Michael. We've been working on a project that we've called Teaching with Virtual Reality. And what we wanted to share with you today is some of the best practice we've developed, some pedagogical approaches we've developed as part of this project. I'm from Plumpton College, which is a land-based college based down in Brighton. It does further education and higher education courses. So as part of our case studies, we've been able to look at quite a wide range. Michael here is a specialist 360-degree video and photography expert with extensive experience in the filming field, in television as well. So he's been helping me with this project from a specialist point of view. So what we're going to do is, at the very beginning, we're going to give you a little bit of an overview of our outstanding teaching, learning and assessment project, and I'll explain exactly what we mean by that in a second. We're going to have a bit of an exploration of the creation of some of the things we've used and how we've used it with our students, and Mike's going to help with a little bit more of the technical side of the things we've discovered. And then finally, hopefully, we'll have a really good discussion of emerging best practices. We'll share some of the things that we've discovered from this project, and hopefully we'll open up the floor to any questions people have got at the very end. So, Outstanding Teaching, Learning and Assessment. This is a program from the Education Training Foundation, which are the main people that define skills in the further education sector. But this project actually spans further education and higher education, post-16 education and training. And the idea is it's trying to give a platform for teachers to explore what outstanding teaching is, teaching, learning and assessment. And for this project, we wanted to explore what is outstanding teaching with virtual reality. That's kind of our starting point. It's a very collaborative project, so we were involved with a consortium of other colleges and other universities. So Sussex Down College, Greater Brighton Metropolitan College is a very large general FE college is. Myers Co College is another land-based college like ourselves doing further education and higher education. And we also work very closely with the University of Sussex and the University of Brighton e-learning teams to look at it specifically from a higher education perspective with those two. I've said already it was Education Training Foundation was our main grant providers, but we also work closely with these other organisations, and we've disseminated this information across a few of those organisations as well over the course of this project. So, I've already said that one of the main things we're exploring is what is outstanding teaching with virtual reality. So this is the research question we posed to the Education Training Foundation we wanted to explore. And really, it's that last sentence there which is the most important. How can teachers effectively integrate these technologies within their lessons? So we're really looking at it from a pedagogical point of view. What are the best practices? What actually works in the average classroom? The research methodology we used is known as collaborative inquiry. I'll just read this out. It's a process consisting of repeated episodes of reflection and action through which a group of peers strives to answer a question that is important to them. This was a project very much led by the teachers and collaboratively with all the teachers. It was about lots of sessions where we explored different practices amongst ourselves at all the different colleges, got together to reflect on them, working out the best practices and repeating the cycle once again. So just to expand on this methodology a little bit more, it was education initiated. It was small scale, so we're talking about just small classrooms here. Maybe a teacher would just do 20 students, maybe less. It was democratic. All ideas were open. There was nothing that we vetoed in the process. It was empowering because we were trying to train our teachers to do these things rather than us doing it all for them. And open to scrutiny because we're really trying to share as much of these results as possible. So the project outcomes is we want to explore different types of immersive technology and content in the average classroom. We wanted to explore the impact that it had on different types of learning activities, so thinking about it from the teacher's point of view, how it might impact different ways of teaching. And finally, we wanted to publish as much as possible online. We've got a website which is live now, but we're constantly adding to it called teachingwithvirtuality.com, and I'll share some of the content we've created and put on there, but please feel free to have a look at that in your own time. So, this is a slide I like to share with people before I sort of dive further into the project. This is, from our collaborative discussion, this is what we viewed as the state of virtual reality. On the far right here, we've got full room VR, Oculus Rifts, HTC Vives, got a fantastic selection of them in there with various apps on display. Very, very high quality visuals, high room freedom and interactive, but approximately 2,000 per setup if you think about the computer systems and the headsets. We didn't really feel like that was accessible to the average classroom. It's accessible to the average organisation now in school, not necessarily to the average classroom. On the other extreme, we have head-mount VR. So everyone was given one of these beautiful head-mount VRs at the beginning of the session. I brought one which I haven't constructed because I was worried we'd actually have to construct our own. So yeah, these are the ones here. Cost about £1 approximately to get these. Or you can get the nice pre-built one. This is a plastic one we've used in a lot of our case studies. If people haven't seen this before, this is £10, but exactly the same as the Google Cardboards. Really basic quality, very little limited interactivity, and requires a mobile phone for the students. Next step up from that was the 360-degree cameras that we explored. I will leave that to Michael to talk more about this, but one of the problems with these things is how do you actually produce your own content to show with the students rather than just pre-downloaded content. 360 cameras is the way you can take a quick shot, photo, quick video, and get it onto these devices. That was the next stage. And then the last one there, filling in the gap there, mobile VR. This is sort of a new class of device. The Oculus Go's, which is we've now heavily invested in here, kind of bridge the gap between the two. You get the head-mount VR kind of level of experience in terms of the easy to use, but then you get much more high-quality visuals with that one there. So very quickly then, that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour for everyone. Could I just ask a quick poll? Which of those technologies do you feel like you've already used before? And if you haven't, you should get in there and try it at the end as well. But just for the moment, which of these have we used before? Brilliant. So 10 more seconds. Right, 3, 2, 1, sharing that. Brilliant. So head mount, yeah, is a bit high, but not that much higher than everything else, isn't it? Head mount has been around since like 2013, 2014. The Google Cardboards came out. Been quite a while there. Not many people using the 360-degree cameras, so you might find it really interesting when Michael talks later about the work he does, because that's very much what he's been working on as a way maybe of creating learning content. Thank you very much. It's really useful to know that. So, in our collaborative inquiries, we identified these types of immersive technology that we could possibly use in our case studies. We had 360 photography, 360 video, which I've already mentioned with those devices there. We had augmented environments, possibly using iPads and overlaying that. We've got some great talks today about things similar to that. Possibly using the HoloLenses as well, is a sort of a more sort of advanced version of that. Right through to the computer-generated environments, which kind of require all the kit to really make that work, or you need to have an in-house development team to make the apps for you. So there's a lot of problems with that. We generally found, the average classroom, that it was very much the first three. That a lot of our other colleges will really wanted to go with augmented environments, with visual tours. We particularly decided to go down the photography and video routes, but it was very much that side, only using very simple computer-generated environments, simply because we couldn't create it specialist enough for our teachers. That's generally what we found. These are the types of learning activities we explored as well. So we were looking at instructional orientation-based activities. These are activities where students might not have been to an environment before, or wasn't able to go to an environment because they weren't able to access something. Those kind of learning activities seem a really good, perfect fit for VR, where you can create an environment that the student can go into. Knowledge retrieval, once they've gone through it, done an activity or seen a skill, could it be useful to revisit the skill again and again and again afterwards? You might be able to just do the skill once in practice, but then you might be able to review it again to really help with that knowledge retrieval. Practical application, actually trying out a skill in the virtual reality. And the assessment, could you use it as a replacement for a quiz, an essay type activity? Could it be a way of actually collecting evidence of learning? We generally found that the practical application and assessment worked better when you had the computer-generated environments and you can have all that interactivity. It's very difficult to do that with the basic things. But instruction orientation, knowledge retrieval worked very, very well with the entry-level VRs and the 360 cameras. And the very last thing I'm going to show you before I move on to Michael is blended learning models. Blended learning is the idea of looking at different ways that technology can be mixed in with traditional teaching. And this is a spectrum that we use at our college. On one side, you've got lab-based activities. These are activities where everyone is doing the same kind of activity at the same time using the same technology. It could be PowerPoint, it could be Nearpod, it could be everyone's in virtual reality at the same time, but the idea is everyone's doing the same thing. Right through the spectrum then of having specific activities for specific people in the groups, maybe having people working remotely rather than in the classroom, right through there to completely virtual-based classes where you've got online-based courses. What we found with this is that stations work very, very well with VR activities when you had these headsets and you could have a carousel of activities with VR being part of them. But it was also really important to make the content available remotely for students, for them to review. Even if they didn't have the VR headsets, a lot of them wanted to revisit that at home as well. So, I'm going to skip that one for the moment. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you a little clip of some of the videos we produced at Plumpton College and the subjects, and then I'm going to hand over to Michael, who's going to be doing a little bit more of a technical discussion.
Hello, I have got a voice. During the course of this talk, I'm going to take a selfie. So you're going to have to smile and wave when I ask you to, if that's all right. I'm actually going to speak from a very personal point of view. I came to this knowing a little bit about 360 capture, but I knew that I was going to be working with people who didn't know anything about it at all. And James knows a lot about it, he understands it, he gets it. But I had to interface with some people who knew nothing about it. And I had to start from basics. And a lot of people will be familiar with 360 material through this kind of platform. I really don't want that.
It's requested.
Is they? Really? Yeah. Who? The people at the back? The camera? Hello. Can you hear me clearer now? They will. Good. Okay, good. Well, it's nice to see you all too. I won't see you and my selfie stick, but I'll see probably a pixel in the back of the corner. So people are familiar with platforms, and that's where they've come across 360 content already. But there's a huge barrier to taking it to the next level, which is using VR headsets. And what I had to get over was a lot of technophobia. The way I did that was to get to listen to what people said and get an idea of their rational and their irrational concerns about it. I wanted to eradicate the irrational ones and work with their rational anxieties and anticipation. So that's a little bit about how I worked. Anxiety versus anticipation. So the anxiety bad, but actually you can work through with that to encourage people to be reassured and feel more confident. The anticipation is also a very positive thing, and finding what people were maybe their hopes were, and I could work with that too. So that's a little bit about where I came from, just to introduce people. I'm going to be rattling through this. Is anyone familiar with this picture? Does anyone know the movie reference? It's a book? Being There, spot on. This is selfie time. Smile and wave. Very good, that's nice, thank you. Very good. Lovely. And so virtual reality is like being there. And that's one of the best ways, I think, to explain to anybody what it's all about. And what we try to do is to get people to understand where would you like to take your student to, what would you like to show them as if they were there. So after I've got over the initial introduction to the technology and finding what we can do, it's very important to have an introductory meeting where you arrange and sort out what the teacher's learning outcomes, what they're intending, what they're hoping for the student experience. They will understand their students better than anyone. They have a variety of needs, and we did some things which were just for students who didn't like going outside. Believe it or not, there are people on land-based colleges who don't like going outside and are slightly agoraphobic, which I thought was extraordinary, but it's true. There are other things, so soil management. People don't think soil is very interesting, but if you introduce a little bit of technology sometimes, soil suddenly becomes really interesting because ooh, look, where you wouldn't normally do that with a photograph, which may change, I don't know. Then I had to understand what the teaching and learning methods were in order that we could create something that would fit in with their pedagogical approach, I think it's called. Is that right? Yeah, okay, I'm learning all these words. And then whether to use a tablet or a headset. Tablets are a brilliant way of experiencing virtual reality. The Magic Window experience, I think, is a real winner. There's nothing quite like being in a classroom full of people, putting a headset on and being worried that people are going to be sticking things on your back or making faces at you. There's all sorts of anxieties. Anyway, next thing, there we go. To ask the teachers about their own skills, their own abilities, their own confidence with this stuff. Are they going to do it themselves, or would they like to hire somebody to do it for them? I'm a professional 360 capture specialist person. I can add value. I can also support people and develop their skills for them to do it for themselves, which is something I'm very keen to do. It's not rocket science. If you think about a few years ago, the idea of people word processing, even creating PowerPoints, 360 capture, actually there's just a few very simple basic rules to make it really worthwhile experience. But still there are certain things that are more like witchcraft. You probably would have seen some here today, where there's weird and wonderful things happening. There's added value through graphics overlays. Again, that's not rocket science, but doing it right, as we're still seeing today, there's a lot of learning going on around that. It's also important to explain to the teachers about the technical limitations and constraints. Those are not frustrating, they are a real opportunity, because any constraint focuses the mind on the craft and makes sure that you get the best out of what is available. Understanding your constraints is a very important thing. That's the technical constraints and your own personal constraints. So then it's all down to capturing the location and actually being there. So next we come to the delivery, the post-production. So we've captured everything that we wanted to capture in 360, maybe in video, maybe a still. Now we have to get into the user experience. Now we had an initial meeting, an introductory meeting, where we thought we'd understand about the student reactions. But if you actually take a look at what you get, you may get a completely different reaction. So user testing, user experience is a really, really important stage, which brings us through to the iterative approach from now on. We've captured the first thing, we look at it, we iterate. We can embellish it, we can enhance it, we can have a sequence of events, we can go and capture something else to add to it. We can also find this iteration opportunity to be a time to clarify how it's going to fit into the teaching methodology. The blended learning thing that James is talking about is fantastic, where you have just a few people doing that activity and it's all part of a bigger picture. So iterations can become versions. You can have different versions of a learning experience, the more basic one, then the one that's enhanced, that could be good for review and revision. So if you've had a learning experience and you're coming to the time when you want to review and revise, you can watch something that's got more content on it so you can hit the bullet points, or indeed you can watch the experience without any of those and see if you can remember and have a tick box with a piece of paper on the side to make sure that you got all the things, you notice the things without seeing the cues. And the last thing I've written on there is share. That's because I haven't seen much social activity today, Twitter and Facebook, because this stuff is made for it. Those platforms, the people who run those platforms are all over 360, they love it, and we really should be doing more of it and sharing it around. And if you create something that's for learning, do something for social as well and share it amongst your peers and amongst all your friends, because it's wonderful and we love it. That's all I've got to say. So we're probably doing this together. So we've got an example here with the equine team wanted to do a bit about show jumping. I had no idea that there was so much learning to do. I just thought it was just horses running and jumping. There's an awful lot more to it than that. And we decided to, this isn't a drone shot, it's a camera on top of a 7-metre high pole. And the horse, they were interested in, oh yes, we can see the number of strides between the jumps. And I've gone for red, white and blue without writing the figures on, because it's not just about the measurable distance in metres or feet, it's a matter of, to do with the stride of the horse. And on review, the teaching and learning here is about watching the horse come around, seeing how many strides it takes to do a certain distance, and the good rider will know exactly how many strides to do in between each jump. So this is the kind of thing that was good to find out about. This was really good fun. Again, a bit more technical. This gentleman has a radio mic on. He is standing in the middle, you can have a go at it. He's standing in the middle of an archaeological dig. He's introducing the audience, it's the camera, to the archaeological dig, explaining the context, and then small details. Another thing we did as part of this was, I got 2 archaeologists together to walk around with a selfie stick, and they walk around the dig, looking at things, sound like this, and it's really engaging. So this kind of virtual tour with a 360 camera on the end of a stick actually works really well. Again, we can demo that. The last thing these things are fabulous with, going back to the horses, if you put this camera on top of a horse's head, the horizon stays completely stable. It's quite extraordinary. These have got 6-axis stabilisation, so I can jiggle the camera around like this, and it will stay completely stable. Extraordinary, but true. It does it in real time, and again, I can demo that for you if you want. It's a good toy. Over to you, James.
Brilliant. We haven't got a chair, but I'm fairly certain there's probably 5 minutes now of questions rather than the normal 10. So I won't sort of read over this slide, but these are some of the things that we did to emerge from our work. Bearing in mind we were working with 15 to 20 practitioners across all the different colleges, about 100 different indirect teachers were involved in the workshops when we were doing this, nearly 500 students in all the different case studies. A lot of this information is on teachingwithvirtuality.com. We just wanted to give you a little bit of a taster of some of the things we found out. So I'll just leave this on the screen for questions and answers, but thank you very, very much for listening, and please ask any questions you like at this point.
It's very important.
No problem. Yeah. And
Any questions on your virtual?
Well, I was going to say, and if anyone's doing this remotely, I will now open up any questions if you'd like to post on the nearpod.com if you happen to be able to access that as well. Yes, yes.
Hi.
Yeah.
Do the college have a BYOD policy? And do you have any issues with the possibility of students' equipment being damaged if you use it?
Yeah, we do have a bring your own device policy strategy. From our experience of doing this, I don't find it very successful, to be honest, students bringing their own devices, because students all have different phones. You waste a lot of your lesson getting an app installed on a phone, Wi-Fi working. Some students don't even want to put their phone in the devices, as you said, which is the very reason we've moved now across to the Oculus Goes as our main way of showcasing it, because then you have complete control. You can just give it to the student, ready to go with all the content preloaded. So we learned that lesson painfully, but that's where we're going now. There is a place for it, and I wonder with higher education particularly, where we're struggling too, so our experience is a mixture of both. With higher education students who are particularly engaged, and if there was an app they're going to use again and again, it could work very well with that. But as one-off lessons, one-off learning activities, I'm not sure how successful it would be. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I've got a question about, will the Nearpod still be active after the session? Yes, it will be. You can use that link. There is also an option on the Nearpod where you can download the whole presentation. So if you want to download it, that's fine. I've also shared this PowerPoint with the organisers, so there's a PowerPoint version if you don't want to use the Nearpod version as well. Thank you very much. When I exit, yes, it will save the presentation and the notes. It might ask you to log in though, so I'd log into Nearpod. You can get a free account, you can log in and all the notes will be saved. So it's a very, very good tool, Nearpod. I use it for all my blended learning sessions. Any other questions from the floor at all? Right. I think the very last thing I'll just say is that we will be showcasing some of the content we brought with us on the Oculus Go. I know some of you already had a go already in the main room. We'll do that at the end as well. But other than that, thank you very, very much for listening.